What if the most protected book in history was influenced by the very hand that wrote it down? Imagine sitting inches away from a man receiving what he claims is the divine word of the universe, holding the pen that would dictate the laws of a civilization for eternity, only to realize that your own human suggestions were being woven into the fabric of the eternal. This is the story of Abdullah Ibn Sa'd, a man who was once part of the absolute inner circle of the Prophet, a trusted scribe of the Quran, who suddenly fled into the desert, claiming he had exposed a secret that could dismantle the foundations of the faith. History books often skip his name, and for over 1,000 years, his story has been whispered in the shadows of theological debates, dismissed as a fabrication or a mere test of faith. But if we look closer at the earliest Islamic records, we find a narrative so unsettling that it raises the most dangerous question a believer can ask. Was the ink on the page truly divine, or was it, at times, dangerously human? The silence surrounding this man is not an accident, it is a shield. To understand the gravity of Abdullah's claim, we have to travel back to 7th century Medina, a city buzzing with the birth of a new world order. Abdullah was not just a common follower, he was part of an elite group of scribes entrusted with the most sacred task imaginable, transcribing the words of Allah as they were revealed to Muhammad. He was there when the air grew heavy with the weight of prophecy. He was the one who dipped his reed into the inkwell to capture the verses that billions would later memorize as the literal word of God. But the records suggest that during one of these intense sessions, something shifted that changed Abdullah forever. As the prophet was dictating a verse about the creation of man, Abdullah allegedly finished the sentence himself, uttering a phrase of praise before the prophet could finish his thought. According to the accounts found in historical exegesis, the prophet told him to write that phrase down as well, because that was exactly how it was revealed. In that moment, a seed of doubt was planted in Abdullah's mind. He began to wonder, if his own words could become part of the Quran so easily, where did the divine end and the human begin? This wasn't just a minor slip or a simple misunderstanding. For Abdullah, it was a moment of profound, terrifying clarity that shattered his devotion. He allegedly began to experiment, deliberately changing small details during transcription, swapping all-knowing for all-wise or most merciful for all-powerful, to see if the changes would be caught or corrected by the source of the revelation. When he saw that his alterations were accepted without question and integrated into the text, the foundation of his reality collapsed. He didn't just doubt, he realized he could no longer stay in a system he now believed he had manipulated. He fled Medina under the cover of darkness and returned to the pagans of Mecca, telling them that he had manipulated the revelation and that the words were nothing more than a reflection of human thoughts. This was the ultimate betrayal, an act of apostasy that wasn't just about leaving a religion, but about claiming he had seen behind the curtain of the most powerful movement in Arabia. His testimony was a lethal threat to the legitimacy of the entire message, and the response from the leadership in Medina was swift and absolute. The tension reached its breaking point years later during the conquest of Mecca. As the prophet entered the city as a conqueror, a list was circulated containing the names of those who were to be executed on sight, regardless of any pleas for mercy. Abdullah ibn Sa'd's name was at the very top of that list. Terrified, he sought refuge with his foster brother, Uthman ibn Affan, a man of immense influence who would eventually become the third caliph of Islam. Uthman hid Abdullah in secret and eventually brought him before the prophet, pleading for his life in a room filled with the most powerful men of the new empire. What follows is one of the chilling and awkward moments recorded in early Islamic history. The prophet remained silent for a long time, refusing to look at the man who had claimed to change the Quran. The air in the room must have been thick with an unbearable pressure, a silent battle between the law of the sword and the bonds of family. Finally, after Uthman's repeated and desperate pleas, the Prophet gave a subtle, reluctant nod of forgiveness, allowing Abdullah to live. But the story doesn't end with a peaceful resolution. It ends with a dark question. Once Abdullah left the room, the Prophet turned to his companions and asked them why they hadn't acted during his long, heavy silence. He asked his followers, "Was there not among you a wise man who, seeing me withhold my hand, would rise up and kill this man?" This reveal is staggering. It suggests that even in the moment of public forgiveness, there was a deep-seated desire for the witness of this alleged heresy to be silenced forever. Why was there such a hesitation to forgive this one man compared to so many other enemies? Was it because Abdullah knew too much? Was it because his claim that the text was malleable was the one secret that could never truly be buried while he still breathed breath? Abdullah eventually rejoined the faith and even rose to high political power under the caliphate, but the shadow of his early rebellion never truly vanished from the historical record. He lived his life as a walking contradiction, the man who claimed the Quran was human-made, only to later lead the very armies that defended its expansion. Did Abdullah truly believe again? Or was his later devotion a mask worn for survival in an empire where dissent meant an inevitable death sentence? The case of Abdullah Ibn Sa'd is often used by modern critics to question the textual integrity of the Quran, while traditionalists view it as a story of a man being misled by his own arrogance before finding his way back to the light. But the mystery lies in the unsettling "what if?" What if the variations we see in early manuscripts were not just dialectical differences, but remnants of a time when the text was still being influenced by the hands of its scribes? The story of the scribe who walked away is a fracture in the narrative of a seamless, unchanged revelation. It forces us to look at the human elements of history, the ink, the paper, the personalities, and the power struggles that are often sanitized in modern retellings. As we look back at the desert sands of the 7th century, we are left with the image of a man holding a pen, staring at a page, and realizing that the power to create the divine might have been in his own hand all along. It is a story of silence, of a list of names, and of a truth that was almost executed before it could be told to the world. If we look at the surviving fragments of history, we see that Abdullah's story isn't just about one man, it's about the vulnerability of information. In an age before printing presses, the scribe was the ultimate gatekeeper of reality. If a scribe could change a word here or a title there, how can we ever truly map the boundaries of the original message? This investigation doesn't provide easy answers, but it pulls back the veil on a period of history that was far more complex and dangerous than the versions we are taught. We are left to wonder about the other scribes, the ones whose names were never recorded, and whether they too felt the weight of the pen and the temptation to finish a sentence that was supposed to belong to the heavens. The legend of Abdullah ibn Sa'd remains a ghost in the machine of history, a reminder that behind every sacred text there is a human hand, a bottle of ink, and a story that someone, somewhere, tried very hard to erase. The question isn't just what he wrote, but what else might have been changed before the ink was allowed to dry for the last time.